Hey, yes, it's Friday, and I'm late posting today, you all. I had a rough time today. Had some things go wrong in the house, so I just didn't get to record this until late Friday. But you know what? I'm going to do what I know God would have me to do, and that's to keep on pushing. I think Eddie Kendrick said, I'm about to tell my age, we're going to keep on trucking, baby. We're going to keep on trucking. We're going to keep on moving, right? So today I want to talk to you about the wilderness. The wilderness. Um, and most of us have probably been on some type of wilderness journey. But for the people of God, or for the people who have trust in God, there's different reasons why I think we are led into the wilderness. Um, the children of Israel were led into the wilderness due to their disobedience. They did not believe God when God got them to the door of the promised land. So he said, because of your disobedience and your refusal to accept and go in, you will wander in the wilderness for 40 years. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. He was in the wilderness before he embarked on his ministry. So he was led by God into the wilderness to be tested of the enemy, I'm sorry, and so we understand that, God will lead us into the wilderness. I want to accept that. I think Sarah and Abraham felt like they were in a sort of wilderness because it took God so long. Well, it took so long for them to um, have Isaac. So, but for whatever reason, God leads us, or we are in the wilderness. There's a reason why we're in the wilderness. And the wilderness is a place of problems, issues, concerns, but it's also a place of purpose. It's a place of purpose. Um, it's a place where, sometimes I think we question, God, am I being led by you? God, did I miss you, God? Why am I here? So, it could be any reason, but ultimately God has led you into the wilderness so that you can come out to do God's will. Because we learn in Philippians 2:13, it says, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. That's what the wilderness is. So I want to first of all by telling you the wilderness is a place of separation, right? It's a place where God separates us from the status quo. He separates us to and puts us in a place of darkness so that he can become our light. Does that make sense? He separates us. He separates us from what we're accustomed to, the people that we're used to being around. I don't know about you, but once God came and filled me with the Holy Spirit and wanted to use me, one of the first things he asked me to do was stop talking on my phone every day. I had certain people that I would talk to every day. Cousins, friends, every day. It was an everyday ritual that I talked to them. And he was like, I want you to stop getting on your phone every day. I need you to separate yourself, because God wanted to silence the voices that were talking to me. And he wanted me to begin to rely on one voice that was his voice. And I can recall this actually happened. I was like, Lord, well, if you want me to know your voice, then I want to know the enemy's voice too. I did ask that. I said, because I want to be able to discern between your voice and the enemy. And he said, no, don't spend any time on discerning that voice. I just need you to focus on learning my voice, because my sheep will know my voice and they will follow no other. So, he separates you so that he can become your greatest influence, so he can become your light, so you can totally depend on him. He separates you for preparation for something. Preparation for your purpose, preparation for your assignment, preparation for your next leg in your life, preparation probably for what you prayed for. You probably already asked God, I need this, and I want to change this, and I don't want to be this anymore, and I'm trying to figure out how to become that. And so God separates you and puts you in the wilderness to show you and reveal you to you, to teach you a lesson about who you are, right? So it's preparation. He's trying to teach something. That's why it says he worketh in you to will and to do good pleasure. So while you're in the wilderness, God is working certain things out of you so that he can work certain things into you. He's working out of you what you have believed and trusted in and held on tight to forever. And he's working that out of you so you can let go, so that he can replace it with his goodness, with his purpose, with where he wants you to go. God puts us in the wilderness for revelation and healing. I want to say that, for revelation and healing. See, in the wilderness, God shows us his faithfulness. He teaches us, because a lot of times in the wilderness, we are suffering something. Maybe your wilderness is you lost your job and you haven't been able to work for a year or two. Maybe your wilderness is that you've been in a state of depression for a while. In your wilderness, there's typically things that we're going to suffer. If we think about Jesus, he was tested. We're tested in the wilderness. And so God puts you in the wilderness, but also to show you his faithfulness, that he is faithful. Because in Deuteronomy, let's think about how God led the children of Israel into the wilderness when they disobeyed. But in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 2 through 3, this is what Moses said to them. He said, "And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord." So Moses, he led you in the wilderness so you can begin to rely on his voice and rely on his word, and that he can reveal your heart to you. See, the wilderness journey is, a lot of times we think it's for us, for God is revealing himself to us, but he's also revealing you to you. What's really in your heart. Whether it's good, whether there's stumbling blocks, whether there's fear, whatever's in your heart that's keeping you from being all that God needs you to be and all that you need to be for yourself. So, we are led in there for revelation, to know what's in our hearts and to know what we need to do. The wilderness journey can be painful. We can feel like, I don't know if you're leading me. I don't know where you are. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I should be. I'm in pain. Maybe your wilderness has been the loss of someone you love. Maybe your wilderness has been separation in your marriage. Maybe your wilderness has been struggling with the sickness. Maybe your wilderness has been some, could be anything. But what I don't think we want to accept sometimes is that God leads us in the wilderness. But what God promises you while you're in the wilderness, that he will be with you. That's why he says, "I'll never leave you nor forsake you," because he's in the wilderness right with you. He led Moses into the wilderness, right, for 40 years before he sent him into Egypt to free the children of Israel. He led him in the wilderness and for him to live as a shepherd of the sheep in the wilderness, so he could really truly know how to become a shepherd of the sheep. He had to get away from everything he knew. I just remember, my wilderness journey. Everything I thought I knew was just stripped from me. Every part of my life that I thought I understood was taken away. But what God didn't do, like the children of Israel, he didn't take my livelihood. He allowed me to continue to be able to maintain myself. Some days I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but he still made sure I ate and I had a place to stay. But I remember in my closet, I remember this so clearly. I went in my closet, and I'm wearing black today. I looked in my closet, it was nothing but black. There was no color. And it wasn't of my doing, it just was what God was doing. It was symbolic of what God was doing in my life. He was killing off all the old things about me so that he can replace them with the new things about me. Because, our wilderness journey is a good thing. Because the wilderness journey, while it's a place of problems, it's also a place of purpose. It's a place of preparation. So, sometimes we don't need to pray to come out of our wilderness. We just need to be able to pray to stand. Because at God's appointed time, you do come out. You come out when you're ready to be all that God needs you to be. Because when the children, after the 40 years, now listen, the people who disobeyed God with the children of Israel before they went into the promised land, those people had to die off. It was only 2 who believed and trusted, and they were able to go in. Thank God we are not under the law. We're under grace and mercy. Thank God for that we have eternal life with God. And so we also have second chances. So I don't care where you are in your wilderness journey. Don't give up. Don't quit. Stay focused. Tap into the Spirit of the Lord. Hear his voice. Listen to the word, because God is doing a great work in you. And God is preparing you for your next. Much love, Keita.